I'm Frank Garza, and welcome to Here and Abroad, a podcast that follows the U.S. men's national team and their player pool across Europe, MLS, or wherever else they play their club football. On today's show, we're going to discuss Gio Reyna and his club situation at Borussia Dortmund. As most of you know, Gio was out injured at the start of the season. He made his way back onto the field in early October and earned his first start of the season last weekend against Eintracht Frankfurt. Unfortunately, he only lasted the first half and was subbed off at halftime. So I've been wanting to understand more in general about Gio's limited playing time and what the future may hold for him at Dortmund. And to help me dig into that, I've invited Patrick Kleinman to join the show. Patrick is an editor and Borussia Dortmund reporter at Kicker. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
So you told me it's a nice wintry day in Germany. Excited to talk with you about Gio and Dortmund. And as I mentioned, he was out a good part of the first part of the season with injury. Since he's been back, how has his performance looked to you?
Well, to be honest, we can't say that for sure right now because he didn't get too much playing time so far. As you mentioned, he played one half in the last league game last weekend against Frankfurt. But other than that, it's only been a few minutes for him so far. As you know, they will play in the Cup this night. So there might be some more minutes in that, but we can't say for sure right now. So it's hard to say how good he is at the moment, but we can look maybe at the last half year of him after his last comeback, the comeback before the actual comeback right now. And that might be saying some more about him because he played almost the whole half year, second half of the season of last season, and he did quite well then. He was, let's say the best joker in the whole league. I think he had a few goals, 5 goals, I think, and 2 assists, and then only about 250 minutes of playtime. So that's a really, really good performance there. But he didn't play from the beginning, so he was like the joker to go, but never had the chance to play from the start. So he had a kind of a role which he didn't like, I guess, but which was good for the team. So that was good. And after his last injury during the summer break, during the National League finals in June, he does a good performance in training, obviously, but we can't say too much right now.
So that term that you used, the best joker in the league, what is a joker?
A joker? Oh, sorry. I thought it was common knowledge. A joker, in Germany, we say joker for players who get substituted, like who could come into the game during the match and, with a certain mission, in this case, to score goals, to assist goals. And he was the player with most scorer points during the second half of the season last year. I think even the whole season, although he only played half of it. So, that's a joker in Germany.
Excellent. Yeah, I thought that's what you meant. I think we may call that like a super sub sometimes over here. Mm-hmm. What about this, this last match against Eintracht Frankfurt, where he played the first half and then got substituted? I mean, what'd you make of that? Why did he get substituted? Was he playing poorly or was it something else?
No, it was his performance, to be honest. He played on the left side, on the wing, and that was the side which all 3 Frankfurt goals were initiated from, 2 of which he was still on the pitch, and he had some troubles regarding the defense, together with his this left wing, defensive wing, Rami Bensebaini, and he didn't do such a good performance. Well, he was substituted the week before against Werder Bremen, where he played really well, where he had good impact on the game. But against Frankfurt, his weaknesses were quite obvious defensive-wise, and all his strengths in the offense weren't to be seen. So that was one of the reasons the coach decided to sub in halftime. We will be talking about his pros and cons later, I guess. But that was a typical game maybe for him to show what he can and what he can't, at least for now.
Okay. Yeah, I do want to kind of get your thoughts on what his strengths and weaknesses are. Before we do that, I want to back up a little bit and kind of talk big picture about how Dortmund normally deploys him, what position he plays for Dortmund. For the U.S. men's national team, we've seen him play a variety of positions, both winger, left or right winger, and then lately he's been playing more of that central, number 10 attacking role. What do you normally see at Dortmund? How do they prefer to play him?
Well, I think we all the journalists in Dortmund, been writing for the last couple of years that he will be the successor of Marco Reus one day, who is the central attacking midfielder, the number 10, as you say. As Reus is still playing, there is no need for a successor right now. So he doesn't play a central attacking midfield so much because the spot is still reserved for Marco Reus. But he can play in both wings, and he does so as a sub or last weekend against Frankfurt. And I think both of the positions we're talking about, like winger or central midfield, are positions where he can use his strengths a lot. So I think he personally maybe may see him more than as a central player, but I think he's also good on the wings. So that's quite, even for a young player, that's quite a big thing to be that versatile in his abilities.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. You've been writing articles for a lot of years about how he could potentially be the successor to Marcus Royce. I mean, we hear that a lot over here, that he's seen as that way. And so I guess you're saying that's true. I mean, he's seen over in Germany as well as the most likely successor to Royce.
Well, he's seen as this inside the club as well. They want him to be the successor. They are building on him to be that. But as you know, the last 2 years have been very, very difficult for him because he was out a lot with different injuries, and that has, well, let's say, slowed down the progress a little bit, or no, not a little bit, very much. He isn't at the position he was set to be 2 years ago. He's had a lot of setbacks, and right now he's in the process of coming back again, being the player he was before his injuries, and maybe being on the track again to be a much better player that he can be someday. But it's difficult if you have so many injuries at this age, an age where it's all about playing time, where you have to get experience, and where you have to earn your reputation inside the club, your reputation for your national team, your reputation in European football, worldwide football. So yeah, well, he missed all of that in the last 2 years, or a lot of that. And right now, nobody can say what will happen in this season, what will happen with him in the future. Will he come back as strong as he was supposed to be? So, well, we don't know yet if he will be the successor. They still hope that he will be someday. He will be the player Marco Reus was for the last 10, 12 years in Dortmund. But it's doubtful at the moment because we don't know where his potential will be.
And so you mentioned, he also can play on the wing. For now, with Royce still there, he's going to get most of his playing time probably on the wings, but he still isn't starting that many matches there. So who are the wingers that are starting over him and that he's competing with for minutes?
Yeah, well, if you're talking about both positions, in Dortmund you have a lot of players who can play both positions as well. And at the moment they play in a 4-2-3-1 system. So there are like 3 positions in the attacking midfield, on the wings and in the central. And he competes with players like Reus, of course, as Julian Brandt, who is also a German national player, Karim Adeyemi, who is a really good winger if he's on his best. There is Daniel Mahn, Dutch national player, also very fast and also not that old. And another youngster, Jamie Bynoe-Gittens, a British player, who is kind of the new Gio Reyna, if you want to, because he's even younger than Reyna. So there is a lot of competition, and it's really good players. It's players that play on international level too, that have had their experience in the past years, that scored, that assisted well. So it's not that easy to get a spot in the starting 11 at the moment in Dortmund.
Let's talk about, what you see Gio's, strengths and weaknesses, as what are those?
Well, he's technically strong. I think he can dribble. He has a good feeling for the right spaces on the pitch. He know where he has to go. He has a football mind, soccer mind, if you want to say. He has a feeling for the game. He knows what will happen sometimes. That's like something you can't learn. That's maybe because well, his genes are good in this way because both of his parents were professional football players. So he has something that cannot be reached through training. But sometimes he lacks things that can very well be reached through training, and that is like his weak points are definitely defensive wise. I think he has weaknesses in tactical understanding, defensive routes, like where do I have to position myself when the opponent has the ball? What time do I have to attack him, the player who has the ball right now? And Dortmund tries to build up pressure against the ball in a compact, united manner, and every player has to participate and know his role. And I think in Frankfurt it was quite obvious that he didn't know his role or he did it wrong. And if that happens, well, you conceive goals, and you're one of the players who's to blame for that. And that's something he has to learn. I think a lot of that will come through match practice, which he can't have at the moment because he was injured all the time. And match practice is always something you can always only get through competitive games. And I think if he does so, he will be better defensive wise, and as important, his consistency will return too.
Is his defensive abilities a lot more of a kind of glaring weakness that hold him back versus his attacking abilities? Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, because I think in modern football, it's important even for a player who's an offense player that he knows his tactical roles in the defense, because it's not only 4 players on the attack, 5 players on the defense or whatever. It's all of them in the attack, all of them in the defense. Otherwise, you won't have a chance in modern football at this level. And we're talking about Champions League football. We're talking about Dortmund, a club which defines himself as one of the top 16 in Europe. So you have to fulfill all your roles on the pitch. And if you don't do that, you won't play. And that's something he has to learn. He has to grow into again. He did better before his injuries, but it's something he has to learn again.
One thing we hear about over here is that the coach, does the coach actually trust Gio? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, we talked about the competition. I think he trusts him. If not, he wouldn't have started last weekend. He wouldn't have been the sub in the week before. But he knows too. We're talking about Edin Terzic, the Dortmund coach. He knows that Gio Reyna lacks some practice, lacks maybe some abilities at the moment that are crucial for his game, for the game Terzic wants to play with Dortmund. And that makes it harder to give him the game time he wants, and he needs to get better again. It's a vicious circle sometimes. But in general, yeah, they know what kind of player Reyna can be, what abilities he has, what potential he has. So of course they want to get him back to the shape he had and become a much better player than he is right now, and that he can be. So there is confidence in him, but also, well, they know that it will take some time, and you can't just like let him play and play and play. He needs his breaks too.
Well, let's talk about the future of Gio Reyna, because that's, again, something we hear rumors about over here, is that, I believe his contract is through 2025, and we're hearing that there isn't really any talks so far about extending that. I mean, what are you hearing about his future with the club, both, this season and longer term?
Well, there hasn't too much to hear so far, to be honest. As you said, his contract runs until 2025. And that means, in my understanding, and in the professional club's understanding, that there should be an idea of the future plans until next summer, because up then it's only 1 year to go. And next summer will be the last opportunity for Dortmund to earn some money with him, That's obviously a factor, and that means, in my opinion, that it will come down to his performances in this season until next summer. If he can prove to be the important player in this team that he's able to be, if he gets his playtime, if he uses it for a decent impact on the games, if he sees himself a future at the club, then I think both sides will be more than happy to extend the contract. Marco Reus will need a successor someday, sooner than later probably, because he will be 35 in next summer. So the end is near. So yeah, if the performances are good, I think there will be a common future with Dortmund and Reyna. But well, I don't have a crystal ball with me, so we can't say more than that at the moment. It's an ongoing process.
Yeah. What about a loan? Do you see a loan, like a loan, maybe this winter transfer, as a viable option for him to go to a club and get more playing time?
No, I don't think so. I think there have been discussions in summer to do that, and both sides agreed that they don't want that. Might have been a good decision, but I think he has the self-image of him to go his way in Dortmund, not at another club. And I think in winter, transfers in winter are always, well, second best choice, I guess. You should do your homework in summer, and I think it's better for both clubs. He will get his playing time. That they still play in 3 competitions. Let's see what happens this night, but normally it's 3 competitions, probably next year as well, if they are able to reach at least the European League, through the Champions League. So there will be a lot of games, a lot of weeks with 2 or 3 games, and that means that he will play sooner or later, more or less. And if he plays well, he will play more. It's as easy as that. So I don't think that's a topic. But well, it's 2 more months until the next transfer window, so anything can happen. It's still football.
And so what I'm hearing from you is, hey, Frank, USMNT fans, you need to maybe chill out a little bit, because he's still very highly regarded here. It's just that he needs the playing time. He needs the plans to develop, and the club still wants him to develop, still sees a future, with him. Is that fair to say? Have I understood?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you've seen him play as well. You've seen him play nearly as much as we in Germany, because he did play for the national team in summer. I mean, you saw the game in the Nation League finals in June against Mexico. I was really surprised how he performed there. He was physically resistant. Mexican players can be tricky sometimes as opponents, and well, he didn't let them play games with him. So he scored 2 goals in the final against Canada, I guess. He played well against Germany. He scored 2 goals against Ghana in the last break. So he is on a good track. He can play. He's a good footballer. He will make his way. But sometimes it takes some more time, especially after those 2 very, very hard years for him. And he's 20 years old. We always think he plays like for 10 years, 7 years. Well, he's always been there, and the national team has always been there in Dortmund, but he's only 20. He will be 21 soon. But hey, he's such a young player. Normally in this age, he just got to the national team. You just got to the first team in your club. And he already has, I think, like, how many? 22 national appearances, caps for the US. Lots of caps for the team, for Dortmund. Nothing to worry. He will make his way one way or another in Dortmund or somewhere else, but he will be a great, big, important player for the national team the next years.
Let's talk about the national team. There's a few things I want to ask you regarding the national team before we wrap up here. The first is I saw the USMNT head coach, Greg Berhalter, was visiting Gladbach the other day. I saw some pictures of him.
Oh, okay.
Have there been any Greg Berhalter? I mean, Gladbach's not that far from Dortmund. Has there been any sightings of Greg Berhalter around Dortmund lately?
Not yet. Maybe he's at the game tonight. There's the big game against Bayern Munich on Saturday as well. So there were 2 good opportunities for him to visit Dortmund in the evening. Probably he will do that, yeah. But I haven't met him so far. So I don't know, to be honest.
What'd you make of the whole situation at the World Cup that happened with the drama and his family around that? Were you surprised by that, or what'd you make of that whole situation?
Well, to be honest, I haven't dealt with the topic that intensively. From a distance, it seemed as if it wasn't just about sporting topics, but also a lot of about personal history between the coach on the one hand and the player and his family on the other. That's always problematic, I think, for a player. Can only harm, especially a young player, to be like in between those two sides, maybe. But I don't know all of the background stories that happened long before and might have happened during the World Cup. But it seems okay right now, right? They seem to have come to an agreement.
Yeah, they seem to be functioning just fine right now. I mean, I think
truce.
part of it's that the media has, the media over here has really blown it up. Does the German media bug, like when he's in Dortmund, are people bugging him about this topic or asking him about it, or is it pretty much kind of not a subject over there?
Well, we as journalists, we don't see too much of him, to be honest. We don't have too much access to the players. And as he isn't one of the regular players, he isn't too often to talk to us. I think last time I've seen him, or I've heard him or talked to him was in January in the training camp. And we were asked not to ask about that topic, which was really fresh at this moment. So I can't tell you. I can't tell. I guess it won't be confronted with that too often because he hasn't too much contact with journalists from Germany. I guess not too much from the US as well because most of the time he is here in Germany. So I think it's behind him. I guess I hope so for him. I hope so for the team and for the coach and for his family that this rather ugly topic has been finalized for now.
Yeah, I think a good part of it it'll always be there, maybe a little bit here and there in the back of people's minds, but I think for the most part, the team definitely seems to have moved on, and Gio has, and Greg has too. Well, Patrick, really appreciate your time today. In the show notes, I'll make sure and link over to your Twitter. It's at @P_Kleinman, so people can check out more of your work. Any final thoughts before I let you go?
Well, not too much. Just as we were approaching the interview, I was thinking about that I have to go back to the US sometime because I haven't been there for a long time and really missing some of the surroundings, the cities, and the whole atmosphere there. So,
where's some of your favorite places to go?
Obviously in New York, as probably all the European guys will say. But what I really liked, I lived for a few weeks in Venice Beach, and that's a place you can enjoy living there, I guess. So, really, really nice cities, and I love to be back sometime.
Well, if you ever do make it in town, come down to Austin, and I'll buy you a beer.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Well, Patrick, thank you so much for joining the show.
It was a pleasure.
And thanks to everyone for listening to Here and Abroad. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a fellow USMNT fan. I'm Frank Garza. You can follow me on Twitter @FrankGarza007, and I'll be back next week with a new episode.